Okay, so this should be a quick video today. Just a reminder, these videos are for entertainment purposes only. Consult a doctor, do your own research. This is just my meanderings and reasoning and trying to figure out why it has been so hard for me to optimize my sleep. And I know I'm not alone. I know there's a lot of other people. If you go to a sleep apnea board, like discussion board, there are a lot of people who are struggling and can't get that good night's sleep. It hasn't been as easy as just turning on the CPAP. Okay, so I had an idea. I've been kind of developing this idea. So I use a BiPAP, a bilevel, and I had the idea that that maybe it's kind of a breathing pacemaker. You know, we have pacemakers for the heart when the rhythm just isn't quite right, or too slow, or something like that. I don't know a lot about heart pacemakers, but let's just assume for the purpose of my discussion that the heart hasn't completely stopped, but its rhythm is just not good. Too slow, too fast, irregular. Okay, so I started thinking about, because I used to just think about, CPAPs and BiPAPs as just for obstructions. Okay, and so if you could just get rid of the obstructions, there'd be no reason to keep using the CPAP. But I had the idea that maybe it's not just for obstructions, but it's to kind of help the breathing be more regular so the body's continuously oxygenated and doesn't need to wake up to reoxygenate and then go back to bed. Okay, so I just put down my settings here. So the day before, I didn't use the tongue retainer. Last night I used the retainer. I've been fiddling with TI min and max. So this is a setting that says when you try to inhale, it makes sure that your breath is at least a second long. And 2 nights ago, I had it at, it won't let your inhalation be more than 2 seconds. And I think most of my inhalations, just I guess naturally, or at least on the CPAP, are like 1.7 or 1.8 seconds long, which to be honest sounds really slow, like a really long, deep breath. Which we'll get into further in the channel, but that might not always be a good thing, a long deep breath. There's a guy whose blog I read that argues that you want a short breath and a longer exhalation. Anyway, and so rise time is something I figured out. I don't think I could mess with it with my old machine, which I sold. I think it was a ResMed. I had a ResMed CPAP. I sold it, and then a ResMed BiPAP, and I don't think it had the ability to do rise time. And anyway, rise time is just the amount of time that it goes from. I don't think I've talked about settings at all on this channel. So anyway, IPAP is the pressure when you're inhaling. So I have it set at 9.5. Exhalation pressure down at 6. So that's why it's called the bilevel. It's not at the same level the whole time. A CPAP theoretically is just, say 9.5 or 9, and it's just always at that pressure. And you breathe in and out. Okay, so you can't really regulate breathing, at least to my way of thinking, with a CPAP because the pressure is always the same. But if you have a different pressure, then you're forcing air. As it's going up, it's kind of forcing air into the lungs. And then it's kind of like the body's like, okay, now it's time to inhale. And then all of a sudden that pressure decreases down to 6. And so it's like, okay, it's time to exhale. And rise time is the amount of milliseconds that it goes from 6 to 9.5. Okay, and I researched it once, and I believe that if there is no rise time, the average CPAP is just 900 milliseconds. Okay, and so on this other CPAP, which is a ResVent machine, I'm sure I'll show it sometime. I can play around with this rise time anywhere from 100, so 100 milliseconds, so that's really fast, like a big puff of air, down to 900. And I have discovered that, at least with the settings I had at the time, that anything above 750 would really kind of ruin my sleep. Okay, and so 750 is kind of the maximum, and I've just been playing around with it. And the problem is, because I might be changing a lot of settings, it might be that under one set of settings, a 900 is just fine. But if you tweak other settings, it might affect the other settings, if that makes any sense. And so Um, 900 is not fine under a given set of conditions. And so anyway, last night I've been kind of at near 600. I think a few days before this I was like 650. Um, and so I kept this the same, these the same. I use the tongue retainer, and I'm playing around with a shorter. I think that having a minimum can be beneficial, and I'll talk more about that. I don't know if having a maximum is beneficial, and in fact, there might be some evidence that this made my deep sleep not as good, and possibly even my REM. But yesterday I felt like garbage most of the day. I mean, it wasn't complete garbage, but it was like a 5 out of 10. Not good, especially relative to recently. If you compare it to before I ever did any CPAP or anything, but when I was just going to bed with nothing, then if you compare yesterday to that, then it was a quite good day. But compared to recently, it was not a good day. So if you look at, so this is my Fitbit data from yesterday, and deep sleep only 47 minutes, REM sleep 144. So I woke up like at 5:30, and it was almost, see, I mean, this looks really good up to here. Like these wake ups, I don't remember them at all. So I just wake, so I, anyway, I'm a late sleeper, and people always say, "Oh, just go to bed earlier." But someone who's kind of programmed to be a late sleeper, it tends to just I just sit in bed and don't fall asleep until I'm good and ready. Now I can easily, I mean, anytime if I lay in bed at like 11, it's hard for me to fall asleep before midnight. Okay, but I could have gone to bed earlier. But anyway, up to this point, it's really good. Now this was not like I had to urinate or anything like that. This was kind of like I'm kind of in limbo, like kind of somewhat sleepy. And I went, but then kind of conscious at times. And it's like, okay, should I just get up? I look over, it's 5:30 or something like that. I'm like, oh, I feel pretty good. Maybe I'm ready for to wake up. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna feel good if I don't get a little bit more sleep. So I took just a little bit of antihistamine and I got more sleep. And then when I woke up here, I don't really remember these wake ups. But when I woke up here, I was like, oh, I feel amazing. There's no, I know I feel just amazing. So but if you notice, so here's from the night before. I can't remember if I showed this. Yeah, I think I did. But this night on paper looks actually better. More deep sleep, more REM. Even the wake ups don't look any worse. But this was kind of what I call a hard wake up, and this one was softer, even though it was longer. Um, on both of them, I took some antihistamine and went back to bed. Okay, and then here's from the day before when I had the setting minimum TI minimum 1 and TI maximum 2. Even though I felt pretty good this day, pretty dang good. Felt awful this day, and felt amazing, just complete perfection. So what I'm attributing this to is that I'd had the crappy night of sleep the night before. I think that's the main thing. I do not think it's that I changed this setting. In fact, I think it might have impeded my night because I got less deep sleep and less REM. So, like having this much control, like it has to be, your inhalation has to be just giving it just a little window. I suspect that it's harmful for me, but I'm willing to play with it. And I think that the reason I felt so much better today relative to yesterday is that this was crap REM sleep because I didn't have the tongue thing in. So I guess my tongue was going to fall back. And so my brain's like, oh, I've got to be on guard because it's going to fall back if I go into deep REM sleep. I don't know if that makes any sense or if that's even possible. But I do know that all REM sleep is not created equally. I don't know how it would differ. But I know, like I said, before I did any CPAPery or anything, I would frequently get 2 hours of REM sleep and it would be complete garbage, feel like garbage. So anyway, those are my random ramblings for today. I think I'm going to go back to 1, 2. I'm going to use the retainer again, see if I feel as amazing tomorrow as I do today. I don't expect to, because it seems like whenever I feel just perfect, like today I just felt absolutely perfect. The next day it never is perfect. Like sometimes I'll be good, but it's almost impossible to repeat. And I don't know quite why that is. That's why I'm doing this channel. Anyway, thank